It's a tragedy the Cleveland Fire Department still talks about more than a century later. On March 4th, 1908, the Collinwood school fire took the lives of 172 children and 2 teachers trapped in the building. The whole city mourned for the families, and it changed school safety regulations across the country. Now, Memorial School remembers that day annually, giving students a history lesson and a lesson in fire safety.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Oddity Acres. Today, I find myself in Collinwood, which is a suburb of Cleveland, very close to downtown, actually, and I'm at a very historic site for a very sad reason. On March 4th, 1908, around 9 a.m., at this very location that I'm standing at, the Lakeview Elementary School went up in flames, killing 172 students, 2 teachers, and 1 rescuer. Now, this fire erupted when a furnace overheated and exploded, bursting into flames. It was really just all they could do to contain the flames. I mean, back then we didn't have the fire departments and the technology that we have now. But it did set in motion a large amount of progress in the country as far as making schools and public buildings and things safer, making fire exits and different precautions, different emergency procedures that are put in place that are, ran through with students so they know where to go in case of an emergency. All these things were put in place because of this horrible, horrible tragedy here. Now, Lakeview Elementary was a 4-story school where approximately 366 students went between kindergarten and 6th grade. Now, the entire school was made out of stone, but almost the entire interior was wooden and wooden posts. And on top of that, the floors were oiled, which was a common practice back then, but all it did was fuel the fire. It is a beautiful property for sure. You can see in the distance on the right-hand side the Memorial Garden and the school as it stands today. Now, there was a lot of grief, and a lot of parents didn't want the school to be built in the same location, but it was acknowledged that a new school needed to be built, and so they compromised with the planners and they built a memorial school in the same location, however, not the same foundation. And this is it right here. Now, 2 years after the tragedy, that's when they built the Memorial Garden and the beautiful sidewalks that go up to the memorial that kind of wraps around the school where the original location was. Now, when they rebuilt the school, obviously they made a lot of changes to it. The original school had a lot of issues, one of which was that the staircase went from the first floor all the way to the top floor. And basically, once the fire caught and the ceiling joists caught fire, the wooden beams, that stairwell acted as a chimney, further fueling the fire. It was said a lot of people blamed the custodian because he locked one of the main entrance doors, which would have served as an escape route for a lot of students. But, a lot of the doors, people mistook them for opening outward when they opened inward. Kids were just getting trapped. These weren't easy places to get out of and easy doors to open, especially for younger students. And, parents were trying to bust out windows and pull people out, but the fire spread so fast and consumed every emergency exit that you weren't able to get out of it. Now, they pulled out as many bodies as they could and actually laid them in the front lawn right here on this property where parents would have to just walk by and identify their child, which is absolutely heartbreaking to even think about right now. I mean, that's horrendous. It's so crazy to think about all the tragedy that happened right here. I mean, just imagine the worst school fire in history right here in Cleveland. Tragic. There were a group of people that were not ever identified, and that following weeks after the tragedy, there was a memorial service and plaque put up at the Lakeview Cemetery, and that's where we're going next. Stay tuned. I am here in Lakeview Cemetery, which is by far one of the most beautiful cemeteries that I've ever been to in my entire life. it's got to be my favorite cemetery to visit because there's so many beautiful monuments and so many really amazing things to see here, amazing people, and people that made a real difference in this world, and to see their final resting place is crazy. And this is one of those places, and this is one of those monuments. So it would have been the following Monday after the horrible, tragic events at the Collinwood School, and they held a memorial and funeral service right here on the grounds. And behind me is the monument for the Collinwood School fire, memorializing all the students, teachers, and rescuers lost on that tragic day. Look at this. Now, this monument was dedicated on October 22nd of 1910, and on the backside you'll see a marker for all the teachers and students that lost their lives on that day. Now, one of the stories that I want to bring up is one that I read online while doing the research for this project, and it is the story of Niles and Thomas Thompson, and it's an incredible story. On the day of that tragedy, Niles was able to escape and make his way out into the massive crowd of panicking students and parents and teachers, and in the midst of this, circling all the students and trying to find his brother, he realized that his brother was nowhere to be found. He actually ran back inside the building to find his brother, to save him, and unfortunately, neither of the two ever came out of that school again. We hear these stories and we see, the places that it happened, and we see the memorial when we come to cemeteries like this, but to hear the stories and to hear the real things that happened, I know that this happened quite some time ago, but, these were real people. And that's why I do things like that. That's why I bring you guys to these kind of places, because I like to tell these stories. I like to keep people's names alive. And, they say the last time that you speak about a person is when they actually die. So today we're just keeping the memory of all these people alive. I would definitely encourage anybody that hasn't been down to the Lakeview Cemetery, make sure you check it out. When you do, come say hello and pay your respects to all those lives lost at the Collinwood School fire. So some people were identified and buried separately, and behind me is the grave of one of those individuals. This is the grave of Mildred Cunningham, who died March 4th, 1908 in that horrible fire. It's a very pretty memorial, though. And it looks like somebody left a little palm cross for her. It's difficult to read. I can see it actually better through my phone, but you can make out at the bottom it says school fire, and you can see Mildred at the top. You can briefly make out died March 4th, 1908. Grace Fisk is another individual that died during the fire. Her stone is actually really unique. It says, "He will swallow up death in victory." Isaiah. So they're actually kind of split up. People are buried all over this cemetery, in addition to a lot of other cemeteries. Mildred was in section 22. Grace is in section 25 near the actual memorial. They really just kind of spread everybody out. I was looking for the mass grave, and I haven't been able to find any sort of information on it as far as the unidentified victims. I don't know if that just stands where this memorial is or if there's a separate location. I've been able to do a lot of research and find certain individuals, certain kids, certain people that were in the event that passed away, on a mass find a grave site, but not anything that's exactly pinpointed. It's kind of like a scavenger hunt, really. This cemetery is so beautiful. They even have swans out there. Those are not real swans. I didn't realize that until right now. I literally thought they were always real swans. Yeah, if that's a real swan, he's in some trouble. I always thought there were swans here. Who cares? You don't even need real swans. It's just beautiful as it is. Swans would have just been an extra touch. I can't believe I've never noticed that. I'm always like, oh, swans, beautiful. It's still beautiful. This is another victim of the fire, also in Lakeview Cemetery. I cannot believe I found this grave. This is Edna Hebler. And she is all the way back here in the corner. I walked past her. I can't believe it. And for some reason, I feel like I just needed to turn around. Look at this. This is crazy. First of all, as I said, I am all the way in the back corner of the cemetery in section 4. All the way up against the wall. And for some reason, Edna is not even facing the road. So you can't identify her if you walk past. You literally have to come up right here and happen to see her. I wonder how long it's been since she had a visitor. I'm happy to tell her story. It is peaceful though, under the tree, out of the way, your own little section. Rest peacefully, Edna. As I said, there are individuals buried everywhere, not only in this cemetery, but lots of other cemeteries all over the Cleveland area. I even saw that there were some down in Medina, which is quite far from where we are right now. Euclid, Willoughby Hills on the far east side. They're just kind of spread out. But I wanted to take you to at least a few and really put some names behind these individuals, because that's what they were. Individuals, and I want to make sure that they are remembered and they're talked about. Also, I'm getting some trash out of here. I just happened to see it when I was walking past Edna's grave, and there's trash cans all around this place, so we can definitely take care of that. So thank you guys very much for joining me on another episode of Oddity Acres, this time exploring the history behind the Collinwood School Fire and honoring those that were lost. Thank you guys again so much. If you guys haven't liked and subscribed, please make sure you do that. It really helps out the video and lets me know that you enjoy the content. So until the next time, stay scared and happy Halloween.